Hello viewers, welcome to entmasterycourse.com. I am Dr. Mehek and we'll be discussing about allergic fungal sinusitis. So allergic fungal sinusitis is the most common and least understood type of fungal sinusitis. It can be regarded as allergic reaction to fungal debris in which nasal polyposis and allergic mucin are seen. Coming to etiological agents, so it is mainly seen in humid areas and coastal areas. In coastal United States, the organism responsible are Bipolaris, Curvularia and Alternaria. In India and Saudi, the organisms are Aspergillus and Flavus, but Aspergillus is more common than Flavus. Then coming to pathogenesis, the pathogenesis is basically ill-defined. Okay, the allergic react but the allergic reaction to fungus is responsible, and presence of fungal debris, nasal polyposis and allergic mucin, these three are very important in allergic fungal rhinosinusitis. Coming to histology, allergic mucin, we will see clumps of eosinophil and degradation products of eosinophil, that is called as Charcot-Leyden crystal, in a background of pale basophilic to eosinophilic amorphous mucin. Fungi in mucin, Charcot-Leyden crystal, which are hexagonal in cross section and bipyramidal in longitudinal section. The special stains used are Gomori-Krokot stain. Coming to the diagnostic criteria, now this Bent and Kuhn criteria is very important for your theory as well as practical purpose. It can come as a separate 5 marker or it can be asked in your viva as well. So it has major as well as minor criteria. So in major criteria, we see there are 5 points in major criteria. They are type 1 hypersensitivity, nasal polyposis, characteristic CT signs, eosinophilic mucus without fungal invasion into the sinus tissue, and positive fungal stains of sinus contents. Then minor criteria, which includes 6 points. First is history of asthma, positive fungal culture, peripheral eosinophilia, unilateral predominance, radiographic bone erosion, and Charcot-Leyden syndrome. Now all 5 major criteria were necessary to define AFRS, while minor criteria were considered as supporting features. So here the type 1 hypersensitivity, that is an elevated IgE level is not always present in AFRS patients and may fluctuate with normal range as the disease stage changes. So based on that, we have one more classification which has just major criteria, okay, without IgE elevation or type 1 hypersensitivity. So that includes immunocompetent patient, nasal polyposis, characteristic CT findings, presence of allergic mucin, and positive fungal culture or presence of fungal hyphae on fungal staining. This is called St. Paul Sinus criteria, St. Paul Sinus Center diagnostic criteria, okay? And this has been recently added in Scott Brown 8th edition. So now coming back, in radiology we can do CT or MRI we will see focal or diffuse areas of increased attenuation in CT scan. Mind you, we are talking about plain CT scans, and it is due to calcium and magnesium deposit in necrotic debris of fungus and allergic mucin. There will be bone destruction and thinning due to pressure caused by expansion or inflammatory mediators. And MRI is more specific. but generally we do see a CT scan only. And MRI shows hypointensity in T1 and T2 because of low water and high protein in allergic mucin. And again, CT can also show us double density sign and rail track sign. There are various gene studies done which are, but it is not important. It shows similarities in gene expression in allergic fungal sinusitis and eosinophilic mucin rhinosinusitis. Okay, then coming to clinical features, it presents in immunocompetent and atopic host, nasal blockage, discharge, headache, like any other sinusitis will be present, breathing difficulty, acute exacerbation in spring and pollen season. Then this is important, there will be multiple gray polyps with cheesy material which will be yellow and thick brown, yellow which will be thick yellow brown. That should raise your suspicion for allergic fungal rhinosinusitis. And some book says that it has unilateral predominance, but otherwise it can have both unilateral and bilateral predominance. Investigation radiology, of course, apart from radiology we can do IgE tests, RAST and ELISA, and histopath and culture. This criteria we have already discussed. And coming to the treatment part, the treatment part is also very 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 important. So treatment is important. See, surgery is the treatment of choice in allergic fungal rhinosinusitis. No matter what, we have to reduce the bulk of the disease. So for that we have to take some steroids and antifungal preoperatively as well as postoperatively. So I'll be discussing in detail about that. So preoperatively we need 2 weeks of antifungal and oral steroids to reduce the fungal load and to reduce polypoidal reaction as well as bleeding. The surgical clearance of allergic mucin, which provides, that is a treatment of choice, which provides good ventilation and drainage to sinus. If it is a revision surgery, we can even use, because the chances of recurrence are more, so in case of revision surgeries we can even use image guided system. And post-operatively, again antifungal therapy or oral steroids are needed. That is again to avoid recurrence and better clearance of the disease. And change oral steroids are later. Initially we give oral steroids and then later on it can be changed to intranasal steroids, and intranasal steroids are given for weeks together. Then post-op nasal saline douching is needed to remove all the crusts and fungal debris. And regular follow-up is of course needed. So on follow-ups we do endoscopic examination, and based on that we have one more staging which is again very very important for your exam purpose, for theory as well as viva. It can come as a separate question. And it is called as endoscopic staging, which is post-operative endoscopic staging. It is named as Kupferberg's classification. So it has 4 grades. And first is the normal mucosa on endoscopic examination. Second is mucosal edema or allergic mucin. Third is polypoidal edema or allergic mucin. Fourth is sinus polyps plus fungal debris. Okay, now I will be discussing the treatment part in detail again. So oral corticosteroids which are given pre-operatively are given for short course, and it reduces intraoperative bleeding and size of the polyp. So that is the advantage of giving steroids pre-operatively. Post-operatively we give it judiciously and limit it to short courses. Okay, in acute exacerbation of AFRS it is given, and to decrease the growth of recurrent polyps. Now oral antifungal is given in patient with recalcitrant AFRS and used as steroid sparing medicine. Okay, we use as steroid sparing medicine in patient to be weaned off from long-term corticosteroids. So we generally use oral itraconazole, that is 200 to 400 milligram daily. The side effects of this drug is it increases liver enzyme, raises liver enzyme, CHF, nausea, rash, headache, malaise, fatigue, and edema. Then topical corticosteroids. This is also very important. It can be asked as a short note separately or in viva, just topical corticosteroids alone. So why we use topical corticosteroids? Because it achieves high drug concentration in the target tissue. Metered dose nasal sprays can be used, or budesonide administered as drops, or atomized spray, or low volume saline rinses. Intranasal dexamethasone ophthalmic drops can be used, which has 0.1 concentration. Then again prednisolone ophthalmic drops, which has 1% of concentration. Then we can use ciprofloxacin and dexamethasone otic drops, which has 0.3 and 0.15 concentration respectively. Post-op refractory chronic sinusitis, we can use topical budesonide, that is pulmicort respules via mucosal atomization device. The short form is MAD, which is applied in migraine position. Okay. Then again we can use budesonide rinses. The concentration is 2 ml of 0.5 milligram per ml. Pulmicort respules are used in 60 ml of nasal saline. Okay, so this is what the concentration is. And we can use topical corticosteroids in all these ways. And then coming to immunotherapy, immunotherapy is under study. As per some study, immunotherapy is avoided due to immune complex mediated reaction developed from IgE produced by immunotherapy. So immunotherapy is still under study, but you can mention in your theory paper about immunotherapy that it's under study, and some studies says that it can cause immune complex mediated reaction. Then there are few other adjunctive treatment, that is manuka honey, that is Leptospermum scoparium. It contains methyl glycol, and the concentration is 33%, and it is mainly used in biofilms. It is effective in eradicating methicillin susceptible Staph aureus, MRSA, and Pseudomonas biofilms. Okay, but in AFRS patients, it can be used in patients refractory to surgery or post-op oral and intranasal steroids. This is also under study. The use of manuka honey in AFRS is under study. Okay, so this manuka honey is in AFRS is under study, but it is uh, benefited in patients refractory to surgery and post-op oral and intranasal steroids. Then coming to anti-IgE therapy, that is omalizumab. The name is Xolair. That is a humanized monoclonal IgE antibody. So it is used mainly in uh, severe atopic asthma, allergic rhinitis, chronic rhinosinusitis, and nasal polyposis. Again, the use for omalizumab for AFRS is under study. Okay, so this is all about AFRS. I hope you have understood the topic well. Um, Thanks a lot.